5.
Cheat codes are a thing of the past, and you're going like, well, Reno, there's cheat codes still out there. Some games have, and that is true. There are a select, few games out there that still utilize the awesomeness of cheat codes, but still, the codes, they're not necessary. It's something you only use when you're bored of the game and you're done, and you've gotten over that. I've beat the game, now I can use cheat codes. You don't need them to win. Back in my day, a lot of cheat codes were necessary in order to even fucking beat the game. You couldn't play Contra without, certain codes. If you didn't know what the Konami code was, that's probably the reason you dislike this video. And, it was kind of a cool thing to know cheat codes. You probably had a little pad. If you look in a lot of game booklets, older ones, if you look in the back, there's a little section, that they would leave for notes, and a lot of people would put cheat codes in there. You don't see that nowadays. The cheat codes nowadays are just a gimmick. They might be more of an Easter egg than anything, but, in certain games, not necessarily cheat codes, but just remembering, fatalities and combo codes for Killer Instinct and Mortal Kombat. It was just such an awesome thing, and that's something you kids don't really get to really experience nowadays in full.
Sloppy Whore 4.
Games were so much simpler back in the day. Games nowadays, Assassin's Creed, Destiny, who the fuck understands any of that shit that's going on? Well, sure, you pay attention for the first couple hours, you start to lose track. You're like, I don't know who the fuck that guy is, but let me stab him with this fucking knife in my wrist. And you don't understand, really. By the time you get to the end of the game, you're so fucking lost, you're just glad you beat the damn game. On the other hand, majority of the Marios and Zeldas, I can tell you almost everything that happens, the whole history, the timelines, the way they intersect, and they weren't complicated. When you played a game back then, you may have maybe a 1 to 2 minute little intro, and bam, you were in the game. You knew what was going on. I gotta save the princess. I gotta feed the duck. I gotta shit the brick, man. It was very simple. But now you gotta watch a 20-minute long cinematic that you're not gonna be able to skip through if you wanted to. And it's complete horse shit, and that's something that I definitely miss. When I pop in a new game, getting into the story is usually a challenge if the game is just not immediately enticing. Back then, games were so simple and just so grabbing right off the get-go that you were intrigued all the way through. Even if you saw a cinematic or a cutscene, you thought of it as a gift. You were like, oh, that's awesome, something other than this 2D side-scrolling bullshit. Now I get to see, two little pixelated characters, look at each other. That was awesome. But nowadays, the stories, they get so hard and complicated to follow, and I can understand what they want to do. They want to bring a whole world to you, and they only really have just this one game, especially if it's the first of a series. They usually tend to be a little bit more complicated. Sometimes that's not always true. They can get a little more fucked as they go, but and that's something you kids will never really get to experience, and that's really getting into a game and knowing the ins and outs, so when the next game comes out, you know everything about it without being some crazy fanboy who has the whole Assassin's Creed timeline in chronological order just so you can entertain the friends you've never had.
Super Dick Cheese 3.
Leave it to the huge douchebags of the money-hungry corporations to ruin everything for you young little shits out there. And what I'm talking about is the free-to-play game phenomenon that is happening nowadays, and I see it all over the place, and that's just something I didn't really have to go through when I was your age, when I was younger, and I was getting into the game world. Nowadays I see so many games out there that are like, sure, download my game, enjoy this game, and by the time you start to even get into the game, let me get 99 cents and I'll let you grow your radishes at warp fucking speed, or I'll fill your gym bag, because God knows you can't sit there for 30 fucking minutes and do it on your own. Then you can fuck around a little bit more until you need to spend some more money. And that's how games are, just becoming, and DLCs. And DLC was such a thing of wonder when it first came out. I was like, what does DLC really mean? What are we getting into here? I don't get the full game? I just paid for the game. Games are expensive nowadays. I just put $60 into this game. What do you mean I don't have the full game? And they try to tell me, they're like, oh, ease up, Reno, they're giving you a little bit more. If you enjoyed this game, we're going to give you a little bit more. But that is bullshit, and you know it. They are charging you more for a game they should have gave you originally. And that's something you really didn't have to experience. When you bought Mario, when you bought Zelda, when you bought Metroid, there was no, well, you got to buy this little adapter to put on here if you want to play the full game. There was none of that bullshit. You had the full game, and if you wanted a whole other one, you waited till the sequel, and it was another full game. And then this money-hungry corporation decided, man, we could really fuck these kids around, and that's something y'all got to go through. So, sorry about your luck.
My balls are blue number 2.
I can remember the very first time I played a game that saved your own progress throughout it. It wasn't a game where you had to just play it, beat it, or that was it, start over. And that game was Zelda. And a lot of you probably had that same memory. And that was a really cool thing. Those Nintendo cards had a little battery in there that saved your progress. And that was really new technology. That was really awesome back then. And nowadays, technology, when it increases, it's so slight. People are arguing about the numbers of blades of grass in Grand Theft Auto because they have nothing to argue about anymore. I can remember going from a Nintendo to Super Nintendo to 64, Sega, all this, and jumping up and being like, oh fuck, that's 8 bits. Holy shit, that's 16. Next thing you know, I'm playing fucking Resident Evil 4, man, this shit was awesome. And I can remember these leaps of technology that just were so awesome, and that's something that you kids probably just don't really get to experience like you should. And games are advancing now, and technology is increasing, but not by tremendous amounts. I mean, if we're going to get into the point where we're counting blades of grass just to determine which console's better, then we're not really moving that far up. Now, we do got the virtual reality Oculus Rift coming out, and that shit's going to be fucking awesome, but until then, I can still remember just that feeling of getting something new and just being like, holy fuck, look at those graphics.
Holy fuck, it's number 1.
Nostalgic gaming, my final topic. That is just something that you kids nowadays really won't get to experience in full unless you're just one of them diehard fanboys of a series or a certain thing. And a lot of people, a lot of adults nowadays, that they hold these games so close to their heart. The Zelda series, Mario, Metroid, all the Sega classics, and Sonic, all this. But I don't sit there and see, a 60 to 70-year-old man sitting there reminiscing on all the times and all the fun he had with the Lollipop Chainsaw series, if there ever is one. I don't see that happening. Games the series that start nowadays, they really only cater to a small group. They're not so huge that just everybody wants a taste of, even if you hate it, Now, there are going to be some games out there that really do stand the test of time. Grand Theft Auto series, that's going to project itself into the future. But, when I heard news of the new Zelda coming out, I about shit my fucking pants because, games like that, I'll always love. And that's just something that I really don't see being a thing of the future. I don't see shops opening that sell antique Xbox Ones. I don't see, nostalgic shops full of PS4 awesomeness. I just don't see that's going to happen, and it's a real shame to see a lot of these series and a lot of these games that just, if they don't make it, they don't try, they don't put any work into actually promoting their game. When these Mario games and whatnot would come out, there would be so much promotion, and even if the game wasn't as good, which was rare, they would still keep on with it. They would still pop out more of the series until it was officially dead. But that was such a rarity. Games were so original back then, and it was so easy to fall in love with them, and that's just something that I don't really see happening nowadays. And for that, I am sorry for you kids nowadays. Now we come to the final conclusion of this video, and I really wanted to say thank you so much for sticking it through and watching this all the way till the end. And as always, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Whoopee whoopee woo.